Content warning. The following story contains topics that may be sensitive to some viewers. Please notice the full content warning in the description below.
Tales of Ealén, the Grey Castle, Chapter 2, Lady Red. My memories still haunt me. I still struggle to believe I escaped, although my life is far from perfect. Having to live in an alley as an outcast, pretending to offer indecent services just to feed off men who mistake me for a harlot. But all this is nothing compared to the daily horrors of the Grey Castle. When I was pulled from my home and forced to swallow the infected blood, I didn't know what was to come. My transformation was agonizing. It felt like my body was being torn apart and put back together at once, my senses sharpening, my strength growing, but it also damned me to live with an unholy desire. The hunger is even worse than the shift from men to monster. I couldn't control it, but they could feed me, and so I followed them without question. Enslaved by my hunger, I was forced to serve the same evil that bound me to my terrible fate. The power structure of the Grey Castle is easy to understand. There are the servants, people like me, abducted or otherwise forced to enter, easily replaceable. Obedient to their masters, not out of loyalty, but out of hunger and desperation. Regularly tortured and reprimanded to ensure servitude. In a worse fate are only the prisoners, who are used for experiments of inhuman cruelty. And then there are the four nobles. Lestat, the warden. I don't know much about who Lestat was before he was turned, but one thing is certain, he must always have been a monster. Now he oversees the servants, and he loves to torture them. He is the master of torment, and he has no other goal than to strip away the personality of his victims, dismantling who they once were, piece by piece, breaking their body, mind, and soul in every way imaginable. He engulfs the struggle of his prey, tasting their agony and sorrow in small doses like a fine wine. No cruelty is off limits to him. He doesn't shy away from anything, physical or mental torment. He uses whatever means to assert his dominance and relish the suffering of those in his grasp. He always finds his way into the minds of his victims and discovers how to break them. I remember what he did to me. I remember the part of me that died that day, a part of myself I'll never get back. And even now, I wonder if I'll ever be me again. Lorelei, the kind. Lorelei is the absolute opposite of Lestat. She treasures life in all its fleeting beauty. Like me, she didn't choose to become a vampire. She was once a servant girl and a friend of the Lord's daughter way before the mentioned daughter died. She often reminisces about those days, about her mortal life, cherishing the fragility of existence that was taken from her. In her eyes, immortality is a curse imposed upon her because she couldn't soothe the grief of her lord after his daughter's death, nor prevent his descent into madness and the resulting creation of the frenzy which plunged the castle into darkness. After all this time, the guilt still weighs heavy on her. She surrounds herself with plants and animals, caring for them with motherly tenderness. She nurtures them, cherishes their growth and development, and when they inevitably die, she mourns them. Each passing life is precious to her, a reminder of what she has lost. the chance to live and fade away as all things naturally should. Their mortality is sacred to her, a fragile beauty she can never again possess. She always treats the servants with kindness. She offers the only protection from Lestat's sadistic torment. Her heart is warm, and her embrace is soothing. She is the only one I truly miss. Among all the darkness of the Grey Castle, Lorelei is a fragile light of hope. Sierra the Alluring. Sierra was once weak and helpless, a dead poor girl living on the streets, but her beauty should be her greatest misfortune. It drew the scum of the city like moths to a flame. They preyed upon her incessantly, taking advantage of her in a daily manner. She cursed God for her beauty and prayed for deliverance from her suffering, and one day salvation should come, but in a form she never could have expected. The Lord found her cowering in the streets, her body covered in blisters and bruises, her ragged clothes torn by the continuous abuse. He took her in, not out of kindness of his heart. No, he just saw a specimen for his twisted experiments. Yet, as time passed, he grew fond of her and her charm. He offered to release her from his torment, but she refused. She knew about her frailty and that her freedom would just expose her to further abuse. Instead, she asked to be turned. She observed the power that vampirism gave him and his entourage. She would pledge eternal loyalty in exchange for this kind of power. Never again should a man be able to overpower or abuse her. The Lord accepted her request, and so she was reborn. Not fragile and weak, but beautiful, bursting with terrible might. Sierra no longer views her beauty as a curse, but as her deadliest weapon. She seduces men with promises of passion and pleasure, only to slaughter them brutally, without consideration or sense of empathy. Bound to her trauma and anger, she punishes their lust and depravity with bloody vengeance. Alistair the Scholar. Alistair is an odd character. His appearance is that of an old man, with a long, wispy gray beard, wrinkles and bumps covering his face, and his fragile, sparse body clothed in loose robes. Despite his striking appearance and his everlasting presence in the castle, I have barely seen him at all. He spends his time in solitude, either in the library or secluded in his private chamber, studying ancient texts and scrolls. From what I have heard, he used to be a highly esteemed scholar, traveling the lands in his pursuit of knowledge, not for power's sake, no. Alistair doesn't use his knowledge for his personal gain. He is simply obsessed with the concept of knowledge itself. But time took its toll on him. He grew old and frail, and his biggest fear rose in him. He was afraid of the possibility that his brain could decay and his precious knowledge fade. Terrified and desperate to preserve his intellect, he sought the counsel of the Lord in the Grey Castle and struck a deal. In exchange for his services as the Lord's advisor and sharing his studies on resurrection, he was granted immortality and resources to continue his studies indefinitely. Alistair is best described as neutral. He doesn't seem to judge the actions or morals of others, neither praising or condemning them. He prefers to observe, not to participate. Unlike most of us, he seems barely affected by the hunger. He feasts just like the rest, but his hunger never gets the best of him, as his thirst for knowledge exceeds his thirst for blood. Above the nobles in rank is only one, the Lord of the Grey Castle, the father of vampirism. He was once just a man, a lord to be precise, and an excellent strategist. He fought in many wars for the land of Ealén, but there came one battle that he could not win, the battle of grief inside his own heart. The Lord had just lost his wife when the cruel hand of fate struck again. His beloved daughter, Meredith, suddenly fell sorely ill. He desperately tried to save her. He sent for doctors, apothecary, and even gifted, but all effort was in vain. Nobody could heal his daughter, and so she passed at the tender age of 17. The Lord's heart was broken and consumed by his sorrow. Soon in his mind grew the obsession of bringing her back to life. And so it began. He started his gruesome experiments withdrawn in his cold castle walls. Only God and himself know what he did to those poor souls that fell into his clutches, and how far he went into his mournful tries to bring back his long-lost daughter. One thing is certain, though. His experiments corrupted him irreversibly. Somehow he invoked the hunger and damned not only himself, but his entourage, and at last myself, to a life with the dark desire cursed upon us by blood. To this day, the Lord still seeks a way to resurrect his beloved Meredith. His experiments grow ever more cruel. Screams of those that fall into his grasp fill the halls of the castle, even drowning out those of Lestat's victims. Blood soaks the walls of the castle.